Okay, this is a brief intro to the choice book unit that we are about to start. You have already had a choice with the graphic novel unit that we had. That one I would say would be considered more managed choice. I had a selection of titles that you got to pick from. This time you were finding your own book. As you see at the bottom, the lesson objective, the goal of this is that you find a book that you want to read for personal enjoyment and also to practice building your reading stamina. That means how long you can read at one time, how far you can get with your reading in one sitting, so to speak. That's language from the Minnesota State Standards, and so that's why we have built this unit in, also because you do really well when you have choice. So regarding choosing your own book, it has to be at your Lexile. I'll say a little bit more about that in a minute. It has to be a book you have not read before. I repeat, it has to be a book you have not read before. The state standard is not about rereading a book for personal enjoyment. You are reading a book for personal enjoyment for the first time. Obviously, it has to be a book that interests you, that's going to help you build your stamina. If you're not interested in it, you're going to pick it up and put it down. You're going to pick it up and put it down. You're never going to get through it. And so the interest helps you as a reader build your stamina. Has to be 250 pages or more. Again, I'll talk more about that. And it is a book that you have to read in class. You need to demonstrate to me that you're working on that stamina and working on that enjoyment. And I can only gauge that and give you feedback and assess that when you are with me, which means you're doing it in class. A couple of rules or guidelines for picking that book at your Lexile. So you need to find a book within your Lexile band. There is a slide coming up that will show that to you. For many of you, your Lexile is going to be over 1,000. And then for sure, it needs to be 250 pages or more. So I'll kind of leave that or more up to you. You do need to be able to finish the book during the unit. So you have to keep that in mind as you look at a book and you look at the calendar. Again, a reminder, it cannot be a book you have already read, and you will have class time to read it. And again, that's where there is a demonstration, and there's not a lot of written work within this unit, again, just like with your graphic novels choice unit. So that is the class time is spent reading. That's what you need to be doing. Regarding Lexile levels and how do you find it, just a quick reminder, because we've talked about this a little bit before. The Lexile is the measure of reading ability and text difficulty from the National Institute of Child Health and Human Development. It's not exact, but it's a pretty good indicator of that ability and difficulty. Again, it's a Lexile level, it's not a score, and you received Lexile levels based on your fall and winter FastBridge reading test that we took, and you'll need to ask me for that and then write that down in your packet so you have kind of a ballpark of where you are looking when you look for your book. Here are the Lexile bands that I said you need to kind of fall between. You also see there's some overlap. The bands are pretty big. As you get up into that 11th grade band and the college and career readiness, those numbers are the kinds of numbers above, 1185 and certainly above 1335 that you would see on textbook kinds of things. So we'll talk more about what your level is and what's an appropriate book for you at that level. How do you find out what a book's Lexile is? Metametrics is the company who developed the framework. They predict and assess how difficult the text would be for you as a reader based on word frequency and sentence strength. We've talked a little bit about syntax and about word usage before and vocabulary in text, but those aren't the only things. So I'll show you a couple more things to look at as well. But Lexile.com is a tool they provide that allows you to determine the Lexile of a book and also to find a book perhaps at your own Lexile level. Many of the books in our classroom library will have some labels on that give you the Lexile. If they do not have it on the book, you will need to go to Amazon.com, Goodreads.com. You might find a website on that book itself, or the author might have a website. You're going to want to find out and get an idea of what that Lexile is. Here's a couple of things that I want to make sure you know Lexiles don't address. A couple things about the book itself and a couple things about you as a reader. About the book, it doesn't determine if it's an appropriate content for you to be reading. So that is something you determine as a reader, but the Lexile has that number has nothing to do with any of that. It also does not look at the text support, like context clues and the style of the author and ways that help a reader get through books that are maybe more challenging for that reader. It also does not look at the quality of that text. Lexiles also do not look at your interest and motivation. If you are interested in something, you can read something that is way above your Lexile because you are motivated to do that because you want to learn or do or figure something out. You want to be in a fantasy football league and you've got charts and numbers and graphs and all kinds of information on players and teams. And it could be overwhelming if it was just text that you're not interested in, but because you're really interested in it and you want to do well, you can tackle that type of text and be successful with it. Lexiles also don't know your background, what kinds of stuff you are interested in and what kinds of things you have read and what kind of vocabulary you come to the text with. It also doesn't know why you're reading it. Are you reading it for enjoyment? You are way more likely to be successful if you are reading for enjoyment than you are reading for a book test, so to speak. The goal from those numbers and kind of pairing you with a text around those numbers is it gives you 75% comprehension. The kind of cool thing is that means you don't necessarily even have to be at 100% comprehension because as you see those 3 bullets at 75%, you have a successful reading experience and you're not frustrated because it is too hard and you're not bored because it's easy. It's like kind of a just right book. You also can achieve functional comprehension of the text, meaning you can read it and understand it and get everything out of it that you need to get out of it. At the same time, you are sufficiently challenged by both the vocabulary and the syntax, like the sentence length, which is tied to your stamina because you're going to be improving upon that at 75%. So it's just, again, the right amount of challenge for a reader. This is the Lexile.com website, and on it is a button to click where you can type in the title of a book and determine it's the Lexile. You can do this in either English or Spanish. They have that on their website. Some other things to consider to help you find books and help you pick out some of the other characteristics. It might be by genre, which is like a type of category. Maybe think about the movies and TV shows and things you like. And maybe there's a book that you could search for by that type. If you like really scary things, maybe you want to read a crime scene, scary kind of a thing, or a horror or a science fiction thing, whatever. Like genre might help you determine that. We have some of the books in the classroom libraries will have some stickers that might identify what type of genre they are. Otherwise, you can always just Google search a title and find out what genre of a book that you are looking at. Another way to think about it might be look at different an author that you have read in the past that you really liked, and chances are you would like other books by that author. Or you can go to Goodreads or Amazon for suggestions of books that are similar to ones you have read and liked in the past. Ebooks are another option if you're someone who would prefer to read digitally on a Kindle, on an iPad, on your Chromebook, on your phone. MacAnVIA is like a digital library access that shows you the kind of books we have available through our school system, and we have quite a few. Audiobooks is also an option for you. There's a couple of websites here on the screen that have free audiobooks available. Note, though, that the Lexiles, you'll have to find the Lexile for these as well, and you do have to see the text. You need to have access to the online text because it is a reading comprehension unit, not a listening comprehension. I've talked about that before, but you would need to see the text of the book that you are listening to. So to narrow down your choices and find that book, take your time. You've got a few days to do that. Look at different author, different genre, different Lexiles, and different lengths. Read through that book for a minute or two, and then just be honest with yourself. Are you going to be able to stick with this book and finish it by the end of the unit? Okay, things to think about. Good luck.